It's tourney time. And with FanDuel's Dog of the Day, you can get a daily profit boost during the College Conference Championships to bet on any underdog. So get ready to celebrate some upsets.
No one saw that coming, except for me, baby.
21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Minimum plus 100 odds required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Department of Defense is working with Google to help secure America's digital defense systems, from establishing cloud-based zero-trust solutions to deploying the latest AI technology. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris Franklin from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome to the No-Huddle Show podcast, the show we discuss all things related to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, before we begin, I want to remind you that you can read our content on NJ.com/Eagles, and be sure to bookmark it to get the latest Eagles news and analysis. I also want to mention that this podcast is brought to you by Penco Tech. With 2 convenient campuses in Blackwood, New Jersey and Bristol, Pennsylvania, Penco Tech has provided comprehensive, hands-on career training for more than 50 years, featuring programs in HVAC, electrical, plumbing, automotive technology, and more. With dedicated instructors and career placement assistants, Penco Tech can give you the skills and confidence to build a brighter future. Financial aid is available to those who qualify. Learn more and take the first step today at pencotech.edu. Well, another milestone on the road to a new season has passed with the annual league meeting behind us, meaning the draft is around the corner. We'll give our analysis on what happened down at the Breakers in West Palm Beach, Florida, ranging from a player who could be on the way out, pushback against the Tush Push, brother shove, or whatever you want to call it, and a new contract extension in the works for a head coach. To talk about this and more, let's bring in Bob Brookover, Cayden Steele. Guys, how are you doing?
Hey, Chris. Back from Palm Beach, or where West Palm Beach. I used the West Palm Beach state line the first day, and then somebody told me I was in Palm Beach. But I know I was sleeping in West Palm Beach, but I was all over the Palm Beaches, and now I'm back in beautiful near Long Beach Island.
You sure love the shore coast, man. You get the ocean views around you.
Yeah, I'm a coastal kind of guy. I'm not a bi-coastal guy, though. I'm just a coastal guy.
You want to go back to Topanga Island in California? Oh, okay. Never mind. All right. Thanks.
I've been to the left coast, but I'd rather be this side.
Cayden, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Chris, you mentioned the draft is coming up soon. I'm excited for that. I mean, it is my favorite, I think, part of the NFL calendar every year. I love it, and I'm excited to see what the Eagles will do coming up in, about 2 or 3 weeks.
It's always fun seeing it. You get a new crop of people coming in, seeing the maneuver all around. Yeah, we could be in store for a good 3 days for this NFL draft. Now, before we get into more of the football talk that you guys are accustomed about, we all want to thank you guys for continuing to listen to this show. And if you haven't heard by now, the No-Huddle Show was ranked in the top 10 among Philadelphia sports podcasts by millionpodcast.com, a website that ranks podcasts around the country. So we just want to say thank you very, very much. And we hope to continue to bring some information, analysis, and fun during your commute, workout, or whatever you listen to podcasts. So from all of us, we say thank you very much, and continue to tell your friends and spread around the podcast. So that's being said, let's get the show started with our opening drive segment. As we mentioned, the annual league meeting took place at the Breakers. Bob was there to cover it for us, and while Kate and I monitor from here up north. Now, there was some notable moments that came out of the meeting involving the Eagles, and we'll start with tight end Dallas Goedert. There have been rumors about Goedert being traded this offseason, and the reasons have ranged from his desire to get a new contract to the Eagles keeping an eye on the cap because they have young players such as defensive tackle Jalen Carter, who will be up for extensions in the next few years. When asked about Goedert and his standing on the roster, here's what Nick Sirianni had to say.
Right now, he's on our football team, and obviously Dallas Goedert has meant a lot to us. And we'll see how that plays out. He's a heck of a football player, heck of a leader, and I want to be able to have back as many guys as you possibly can. But that is not the reality of the NFL. We got a lot of so we'll see what happens and how that happens. But of course, you want everyone back.
And again, that was Nick Sirianni. Now, in 10 games last season, Goedert caught 42 passes for 496 yards and 2 touchdowns. We've heard the offense goes through 3 people, and we've heard it a lot. Wide receiver A.J. Brown, wide receiver Devontae Smith, and Goedert. I'll start with you, Bob. Based on what Sirianni had to say, what are the chances that Goedert is back on this roster next season?
Well, I would go more to what Howie Roseman said and what Jeffrey Lurie said. Howie Roseman basically said nothing's changed from where things stood in terms of, they're looking to trade him. They don't want to pay him. He's owed. It's not so much the cap with them because it's more they don't want to restructure and push cap money forward. They're trying to free up. I mean, that was the prevailing message of these meetings in my mind, that they're freeing up cash flow to sign guys like Jalen Carter and Cam Jurgens. And, I think Jordan Davis, we could end up seeing, getting an extension rather than just that 5th year thing based on what I was hearing at these meetings. And that's what the sole purpose is. They have these core group of players identified. Many of them are already signed to these long-term deals, and they want to free up the cash flow. And they don't feel like the $14.25 million in cash that they owe, according to OTC over the cap, they don't feel like that is going to help them. It's conducive to them being able to do what they want to do with those young guys that they're paying Dallas Goedert. They don't want to pay him that amount of money. I don't think Dallas wants to really, restructure his deal. You mentioned his stats, but you didn't mention that he was their leading receiver in the postseason in 4 games. I think he had 10 catches for 215. That was more than A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. If we go back to the Green Bay game when the game was still very much in question, he took Carrington Valentine and just basically shoved him 25 yards he carried the football and him into the end zone. That play is going to stand out forever. I wrote about it for this morning, replacing, and I've written about it several times now, replacing Dallas Goedert is no easy task. And the Eagles know that. I mean, Howie Roseman referred to him as a unique player, and he is a unique player, one of the top 5 tight ends. But he's 30 years old now. At this age, at his age, the Eagles had already drafted Zach Ertz. I think they drafted Dallas when Ertz was 28 years old. And then when Brent Selleck was 27, they had drafted Ertz. So they were already thinking about a replacement at those ages. And then you add in the fact that he's missed 15 games over the last 3 years. All those things combined, now getting a deal lined up, I came out of those meetings. My thought was Dallas Goedert, after listening to the people I talked to, that Dallas Goedert may very well have played his last game. I would, if I had to bet one way or the other, I'd bet that Dallas Goedert has played his last game with the Eagles.
Wow. What do you think, Cayden?
I agree with Bob. Based off their answers being non-committally about Dallas Goedert, seeming, neither Nick or Howie really, talking about how they want Dallas definitely back, how they're working to agree to something. More than likely, it seems like he'll be gone. And Bob, made a lot of good points in how valuable Goedert was in the playoffs, this past year. And Chris, you talked about how the offense has run through him, and it's not going to be easy to replace him. Whoever you draft, whether that's maybe on day 2, a rookie coming in, combined with the guys that you already have in the room, like Calcaterra, and then the incoming free agents and Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granson. None of these guys would be Dallas Goedert. But with the age, with the contract situation, with him only having 1 year left and no guaranteed money, the injury history in the past, 3 years. Goedert hasn't been able to finish the season. He's missed long periods of time. I just don't think he really fits into the Eagles' long-term picture because of, where they're at right now, wanting to pay these young players, top of the market dollar deals, and they're not going to be able to pay everyone. And Goedert, although as good as he's been, I think the passing offense can still thrive without him, just because you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They're going to have to find a tight end that can, be solid as that number one option. But I feel like he's a player they're willing to move on for, or willing to sacrifice, make some tough decisions. Howie Roseman talked about that's what they have to do. And Goedert seems to be another player that they're going to have to do that with. Yeah,
whatever way they go with this decision to bring him back or not, which I'm on board with you guys now. I think the way that was answered, and the way he's saying like he's on our roster, right? He's on our currently roster, and you hear Sirianni and everybody else talk about other guys. It's like, oh yeah, they're going to do this one, and then the shift to, well, he's on our roster. Yeah, it's not looking pretty good for him.
I think you were there last year, right? When we asked Howie about Hassan Reddick. It was almost the identical answer he gave about Hassan Reddick. And I think 2 days after the meetings last year, Hassan Reddick had been traded to the Jets. That didn't bode well either.
Yeah, it's not looking good. And no matter what happens, if he stays extension or if he's traded somewhere else, make sure to look out for us, and we'll have that information. We'll bring it out to you. Probably be an emergency podcast that day. So watch out for that. And it's going to be something to watch going forward here. Now let's go to the next topic, which is the Tush Push pushback. That seemed to be the talk of all the annual league meetings this week. For some background, if you don't know, the Green Bay Packers made a proposal to ban the play. The Eagles lobbied to keep it legal. As when the coaches and executives were speaking, we heard varying opinions about whether to ban the play or not. The proposal to pass it needed 24 votes, and Fox Sports' NFL reporter Jordan Schultz said there's currently 16 teams that want to ban it. So that means 16 other teams want to keep it. So you got half the league saying yes, half the league is saying no. So it's going to be a very interesting tug of war going forward. There's not an official vote. And the next time they'll probably vote for it is the spring league meeting in May, which will be held in Minneapolis. Cayden, are we witnessing the end of the Tush Push?
Ultimately, I think we will, especially with the fact with it getting pushed up. I think it's even though it's going to probably get banned, I think by the time May comes around, there hasn't been a reason that I think makes a ton of sense, whether you want to bring up the injury risk, because the data says, this player isn't, any more of a risk than any other, quarterback sneak. There hasn't been any really significant injuries that they've been able to point out, other than the hypothetical, like the medical staff thinking the positioning and the posture could cause an injury, and it's all hypothetical. There's been no evidence of that. And then the optics part of it, the Sean McVay, the Rams coach, who's been advocating for this play to get banned, talking about how it's a rugby play. We've heard that side of it. It's 16 right now, but that gives enough time to probably find, 8 more that you need. Then the fact that, looking at Pro Football Talk, Roger Goodell, was talking about it, that there's, different plays, but he does think, there is an increased risk of injury. Like he said that it made sense to him. So if Roger Goodell, is on board with some of these points that Sean McDermott are making, I feel like eventually this is going to get enough wind, ban it. The reasoning behind it, I think it's going to just be ridiculous, other than, I don't understand why they're doing it logically, but it seems like there's enough NFL teams that want to get rid of the play, either because they've made up their mind that they think the play is risky, even though there's not a lot of data, or they're just sick of seeing how it looks and they don't think it looks pretty. But I don't think the Eagles will be running the Tush Push next year.
Oof, that's going to change the offense, at least short yards a little bit. What do you think, Bob?
Here lies the Tush Push. It was an ugly play, much like the Eagles' big play. It is becoming a victim of a sleigh.
Okay. No, Bob Brookover, poet laureate right there.
That was written in like 13 seconds, so give me a break. I just wrote that off the it's a goner. Roger Goodell wants it out. It's going to be out. The competition committee wants it out. they can say, and Cayden made all the right points here. And Jeffrey Lurie made great points about the whole thing. I don't know any evidence like Jeffrey. There might have been some hyperbole in what Jeffrey was saying the other day when he met with us, but he basically said we determined it was safer for our quarterback than just a regular basic quarterback sneak. I don't know if that's true or not, but this is more about teams not being able to stop it than anything the NFL can couch it however they want to couch it. The teams that want to get rid of it can't stop it. And that's, it has nothing to do with player safety. They don't like what it looks like. They can't stop it. They can't do it. You know what? It's also a sign of being a great team. When the Patriots kept winning, people wanted to accuse them of cheating, and maybe they were, but they weren't winning because they were cheating. I hated some of the stuff they did. I thought it was slimy, but that's not why they won. They won because they had Tom Brady and they were better than everybody else, and they had smart coaches. And they became hated. Now, the Eagles have become that team, and that's a show of how far they've come as an organization. That other teams, when they can't beat you, they try to figure out ways to the things that they can say and do to maybe slow you down. But I left those meetings having talked to a lot of people about this, but I felt like it was all I wrote about for 3 days. But convinced that, they had 16 votes on Tuesday. By May 20th, when they get to Minnesota, the commissioner will have waved his magic wand and said, you will vote for this, and I will give you a favor of some sort down the road. And then we don't have to look at the ugly tush push anymore. And it's almost like the Eagles. And I actually asked Nick Sirianni this question. I said, so Nick, do you feel like, and I don't think Nick wanted to answer it because he loves that play. That's his baby. I said, do you think you'd still be really good at scoring a lot if you just ran a quarterback sneak? And he said, of course we would. We have the best offensive line, and we have a quarterback that squats 600 pounds. So of course they are still going to be good at it, but it's become a part of Philadelphia lore. This play, as you've referred to it, as most Philadelphians, Eagles fans refer to it, the brotherly shove. It got a nickname and a good one, but I think they're going to shove this play out the door.
There's two things that I find interesting. A couple things I find interesting about this. First off, the fact that it feels more and more like we're covering politics right now, or like we're watching Congress and they're trying to whip the votes up to get this thing passed. I feel like I might as well be watching like C-SPAN or something as much as you've seen us trying to be legislated, trying to be passed. Another thing was I thought it was kind of funny as well too, that being that the Packers put the proposal down there, Nick Sirianni kind of slid Bart Starr's name into his answer about why it was a good play and have him doing that. So it was kind of like another ding toward the Packers. And there's something very interesting I can see that I want to see happen if it does get outlawed. Remember, the Eagles do go to Lambeau Field at some point this next season because they the way on their schedule. So I would love to see them go out there officially, if they get banned or not, just at least go out in the formation to like say we remember what you did to the Packers. Then maybe shift out to like a 3 wide receiver, 4 wide receiver, just as an homage, either as an homage to the play or we know what you did. We're going to be ultra petty for it. So I kind of hope that one too.
Two things with me, Chris, one is, the Packers got pretty creative with it. I thought in that playoff game, they brought their tight end in to run the play. They put him in motion, they got him behind center and they ran it with him. I thought that was pretty cool. And, I talked to Shane Steichen at the meetings and I was asking him, I said, you were there at the infancy of this whole thing. Could you just talk about that? And could you ever imagine it would be what it has become? And he basically went into a whole thing about how, when we first started running it, we were, we put it together and like, okay, that's great. And said, we thought about being creative, doing this and doing that. And then we realized, we get a yard every time we just push the quarterback forward. We don't really need to get too creative with it. And he said, so, the next time it was like first we got a first down at the 2-yard line, and Nick's like, we're going to run the quarterback 4 straight times. I don't care. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. 1 yard on first down, 1 yard on second down, touchdown, third down. He goes, yeah, you're right. You're the boss. It was really funny talking about it. So, and to his credit, Nick, the first day on Sunday, basically said, I better have the votes of my former coordinators and Shane Steichen. I didn't get a chance to talk to the other 2 guys because they were NFC teams, and I was perched at Nick's availability that morning. But Shane Steichen was, I'm sticking with that play. It helped me get my head coaching job, as Nick said.
Well, we've reached halftime portion of our show. Unfortunately, we don't have Kendrick Lamar, Aerosmith, or anybody else playing for you, but we do have an important word from Penco Tech. We'll be right back in 40 seconds. The No-Huddle Show podcast is brought to you by Penco Tech. With 2 convenient campuses in Blackwood, New Jersey and Bristol, PA, Penco Tech has provided comprehensive hands-on career training for more than 50 years, featuring programs in HVAC, electrical, plumbing, automotive technology, and more. With dedicated instructors and career placement assistants, Penco Tech can give you the skills and confidence to build a brighter future. Financial aid is available to those who qualify. Learn more and take the first step today at pencotech.edu. That's PENNCOTECH.edu. And we are back. Thanks for joining us. Let's get into Nick Sirianni himself and his contract. It's a foregone conclusion that Nick Sirianni will be getting that extension, especially after what Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie had to say. Here it is.
Superb job. I mean, Nick's going to be our coach, and we don't talk publicly. Never have. You guys, I'm sure, will find out soon enough when that Nick will be our coach going forward, and he's done an outstanding job.
Sooner than later, as you heard Jeffrey Lurie said. Now, I'm going to bring this up. After the Eagles extended Doug Peterson following Super Bowl 52 win, an option in his contract was picked up and additional years were paid through him through 2022, but Doug was fired after the 2020 season when they finished 4-11-1. With that in mind, Bob, when you look at the head coaches in the NFL, where do you think Sirianni will fall in pay-wise, and how many years do you think he will get?
Yeah, first of all, do you think I'd be a good HVAC worker? I'm thinking of a career change here at 62 years old.
Hey, you got time. Hey, we have an in now, Penco Tech. Hey, you got time.
All right. I'll have to get that Penco Tech commercial of mine. Where do I think this coaching contract is going? It's a great question. I never thought it was any doubt that, it's amazing how different this season is than last season when we're wondering, would he survive another season? And now we're talking about a very, what figures to be a very hefty raise. I believe, just from the numbers I've read, because I don't really honestly know what he is, but the reported number is he got $7 million over 5 years, so a $35 million deal when he signed initially. I got to think he goes to into the top 5 of coaching. And the interesting a name that, and this is a guy who's very against the Tush Push, but I think Nick has mentioned him enough times in meetings when he's been around us. He's got a ton of respect for Sean McVay, and I think he does for Kyle Shanahan. And Shanahan, according to Sportico, is making $14 million a year. He's in his 8th year. And McVay's making $15 million a year. And he's been to 2 Super Bowls. Shanahan's been to 2 Super Bowls as head coaches. Like McVay, Nick has won 1, lost 1, and like Shanahan has lost 2 of them. I got to think he's going to be in that range. I'm thinking like a 3-year, like 15 million, maybe 16 million, because if you're the latest guy signing, everybody wants more. In the fantasy world of sports, they usually get more. It doesn't always work that way in the real world, but in the fantasy world of sports, it always seems to be more. Jim Harbaugh got 16 million to join the Chargers. And I think that seems like a fair price for Nick at this point, given his resume. 4 for 4 going to the playoffs, 2 Super Bowls, a Super Bowl win. I think that's probably what we're looking at in that vicinity. And it's hard to say he hasn't earned it.
Hey, Cayden, how about you? Do you think that he'll get a similar contract like Peterson in terms of years? And what do you think the value is going to be with him?
Yeah, I mean, Nick Sirianni deserves a big extension. We've already seen the Eagles are willing to pay people. And, and I know it's different in terms of coaching players, but they reward people for good performances. They did it with Saquon after the year. They did it with Zach Bond after the year. I think they're going to do it with Nick Sirianni as well. He's going to make him one of the highest paid coaches in the league. I don't think he's going to surpass Andy Reid in terms of $20 million per year. But like Bob said, I think anywhere from 15 to 18 mil. I think there's a possibility. Sean Payton's the second highest paid. I don't know if he'll pass him, but he could get close to that number. And a 3-year extension or 4-year extension, I think is a possibility for Nick. And it is crazy. I mean, Bob mentioned it with the discussions, not only people were having after the year, but after the bye week when they started 2-2. I don't know if anyone thought Nick would be in this position, but he turned around the team and they won a Super Bowl. And he's made 2 of the last 3. He's made the playoffs in 3 of the 4 years. Nobody really has a better resume in the NFL in the first 4 years of his career than Nick Sirianni, and he showed an ability to kind of go through some adversity as a coach, and it shows that his guys still believed in him, and he's got the best the best out of them, and I think he's well deserving of a significant raise, and he's one of the best coaches in the NFL at this point. I don't think you can make an argument against it, 16, 17 mil, I think is a very strong possibility.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking at when it comes to the years, I can see it. It's gotten to the point where I think he said more sustained success than Peterson had. And you look at the fact it's been 2 Super Bowls. You look at, even though they collapsed in 2023, they started 10-1. And in that short frame of time, to me, Andy, I know you can make an argument, Kyle Shanahan. To me, it's Sirianni and Andy Reid or just based on the success that they've had. And when you look at that, I wouldn't be surprised if it's around 19 or he matches Reid in 20 as a sort of a statement and in a way to say, you know what, we think he's up there with Reid. We think he's one of the best guys out there. Now, that's a lot of money. If everything turns south all of a sudden and you get rid, that's a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised if it's another 5, say the contract ends in 2029-ish, around then. That's a lot of money to pay if it doesn't work out. But the way that looks like this team is setting up to build for the long term, and if all these things pan out, he could be around that line. It could be a steal, if anything, say if all these other coaches start getting paid more and they do well. So it's fun to watch. I thought about doing a Price is Right type of game for this, but I was afraid somebody's going to go 16 million and 1. I was like, yeah, I can't do that. Nah. So maybe we'll have something based off of this later on. We'll check to see with that. And now it's time for the run pass option, where I will give Cayden and Bob a statement. If they agree with it, they'll run with it and tell why. If they don't agree with it, they'll pass and they'll give their reasons why as well. Today, we're going to take a look at the draft. When looking at the team's needs and where they are picking at the moment, the Eagles have the run pass option statement is this. The Eagles will have 2 picks that will be on the defensive side of the ball. Cayden, are you running or are you passing?
This is tough. I'll pass. For a while, I was thinking that way. I was leaning that way. I wrote about it last week. I think it would be a smart strategy to double up on defensive linemen in the first 2 rounds because it's a really good class, at the interior defensive line and at edge rusher. But for those same reasons, I think it's likely in the first 2 rounds. We talked about Dallas Goedert earlier. If they do trade him, or even if they don't trade him before the draft, but if they know they're going to trade him, you look at the tight end room, it's pretty thin. I really don't believe any of those in-house options could be a guy that you feel confident coming in next year as a starter. Grant Calcaterra's got some upside as a pass catcher. He's shown that throughout the years, but he's not been a really reliable blocker. And I don't know if he's a good enough pass catcher where you feel great about him as the number 1 tight end. The other guys, they're backup tight ends. They're going to fill a role. But I don't think you feel really good about anyone replacing Goedert. And in the draft, the tight end class is pretty strong as well. Not in terms of the depth of like of the D-line class. So I think if you waited to round 3 or round 4, I don't know if you're going to find, that high impact tight end who could definitely step into a starting role. I mean, there could be guys like Gunnar Helm from Texas who had a really solid career. Harold Fannin, maybe. I'm not sure if those guys are going to be able to have a chance to replace Goedert's production. In all likelihood, no rookie probably will, but I think it's likely that they end up taking a tight end, in the second round, especially if Goedert leaves, whether that's a Mason Taylor or an Elijah Orworo. And if you do that, I still think they probably take a defensive lineman in round 1, and then they can go back in round 3 because of the depth of the class and get an interior defensive, get a defensive tackle or get an edge rusher because of the depth. So I think somewhere in the first 2 rounds, they're going to draft a tight end. So I'll go with pass on this one.
Bob, are you running or passing that the first 2 tight ends, first 2 players the Eagles select will be defensive players?
I'm also going to pass on it. The tight end thing is interesting. It doesn't sound like Colston Loveland. Tyler Warren's definitely not going to follow the Eagles, and they're not going to be able to move up high enough to get him. It would cost too much draft capital to, I see him being probably a top 10 pick. People falling that much in love with him. But you never know about like somebody like a Colston Loveland. It seems like he too, his stock has risen in that he'll be gone before 32. But you never know if he drops to, like the 28 range. Would the Eagles be willing to invest in him then? I don't know. And they're certainly not going to let on how much they like him. But I just can see the Eagles, if some offensive talent starts dropping toward them, that nobody expected somebody. I mean, it kind of happened last year with Quinyon Mitchell. It was like people thought he might be a top 10, top 15 talent, and all of a sudden he's dropped to 22nd to them. If something like that happens, I can see the Eagles just going after an offensive player, whether it's a tackle or a tight end, as we mentioned, or maybe even a wide receiver if they thought he was good enough. They're great at wide receiver right now, but there's nothing wrong with having another one for that depth and somebody you can develop a little bit. So I'm going to pass on it because, and then I think. But I definitely think that one of those first 2 picks is going to be a defensive. If it's going to be to one side of the ball, it's going to be the defensive side of the ball. But I think one of the 2 will be. But I can also see a scenario where they take an offensive player. So I'm going to pass.
Wow, I'm shocked. I would have ran with it, and the reason why I think they run with it is unconventional. Well, not unconventional, but I think they do this. I agree. Loveland and Warren, to me, I think, and even Fannin Jr., I think they're all gone. Not even just gone. I think the Eagles passed on them, but especially with Loveland and Warren, like in the first round, I think they're gone. I don't think the Eagles are picking in the first round. To me, I think they trade that pick to either the Seattle Seahawks or the New Orleans Saints. Those are 2 teams I can see they're moving because they both need quarterbacks. Because if you look at Seattle's deal, it's really a 1-year deal for Sam Darnold, and then we know the Saints with Derek Carr, they're probably moving on. Spencer Rattler, they gave him so many chances, and he's not going to do it. So I think that first pick is going to be like a edge rusher, and with an edge rusher with the pick they pick up from one of those trades with their own another second round pick, I think they go defensive tackle. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, or vice versa. You can flip them either way. I think the third pick, and I've heard from somebody saying this as well too. They have an interest in Gunnar Helm. I think that's a guy they can do with it because they'll give, just looking at what they have on the roster already. I think they're going to try to give Jahan Dotson more of a chance to develop to be a true number 3 receiver. And you still have Calcaterra there, who's familiar with the offense, but like we all talked beforehand about injury issues. He has his own injury issues, but I think they try to give Jahan Dotson more of a shot to get more involved in the offense, and then they go ahead and use Calcaterra for this year, have Helm or somebody else, maybe somebody else on their board to develop into a role and then give him a shot to start the following season in 2026. That's why I'm feeling like I think they go stick with defense on that side as of now and just see what you got in Dotson. I don't know. We'll see how this will roll out. But now to everybody's favorite segment, and looking at both Bob and Cayden on this one, the 2-minute drill is where each of these guys will have 2 minutes to answer a question. If they don't finish, they'll hear this whistle, and the time's up. This week's 2-minute drill question is going to focus on the quarterbacks in the NFC East. Here it is. The Giants signed Russell Wilson to a 1-year deal to be their starting quarterback. As it stands right now, Wilson will join Jalen Hurts, Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, and Commanders quarterback Cayden Daniels. Bob, we'll start with you on this one. At this point right now, how would you rank the 4 starting quarterbacks in the division going from last to first? Your time starts.
Last to first?
Last to first, yep.
Okay. The clock starts now?
Your clock starts. We'll delay. Yep, your clock starts now.
Okay. Timeout. No, never mind. I'm ready to go right now. Let's go. 4th and 3rd is interesting spots for these guys, but I would say 4th right now would be Russell Wilson. And we're talking about a guy with a Hall of Fame resume. I think probably belongs in the Hall of Fame. During the season, I wrote about him as the guy whose young career reminded me most of Jalen Hurts. Everybody always thought, Russell Wilson isn't very good. He's got a great team around, but he's just okay. And Russell Wilson was better than okay, and he led the Seahawks to the Super Bowl and then back to one following season. If the Seahawks, Pete Carroll, had handed the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, they would have been back-to-back Super Bowl champions, but another story. But he's at a point in his career where we saw him against the Steelers last. He's at the end to me. Dak's been banged up. I put him 3rd. And it is an even odd number year coming up, and he's been much better in his odd number years over the last 6 years. His even number years, but I don't think the Cowboys are a great team anymore. And I can see him struggling. I can see him being near the end. I'm going to put Cayden Daniels at number 2, and he's with a star because he's a rising star. And I think he's really good. And maybe in 2 years, you can talk about him being better than Jalen Hurts. But he doesn't have Jalen Hurts' resume right now. Jalen Hurts has the best resume in the NFC East. And to me, he's a top 5 quarterback. 4 years, we just made the same argument about Nick Sirianni. Same thing stands with Jalen Hurts. 4 years, 2 Super Bowls, 4 playoffs, Super Bowl victory, Super Bowl MVP. Jalen Hurts, number 1 on that list.
2 seconds to go. Bravo. 2 seconds to go. They got the trigger finger was itchy. Yeah, almost.
Keep that whistle. Keep that whistle out. Keep that whistle out your mouth.
Oh goodness! All right, here we go. Cayden, same question for you. If you had to rank the quarterbacks from worst to first in the NFC East, how are you putting it? Your time starts now.
4, I'll go Russell Wilson. Although he did some good things with Pittsburgh last year, you saw how Pittsburgh finished losing out. Russ is a shell of what he used to be. He doesn't have the legs that he had in Seattle that made him a really special player. He doesn't have the creativity. He's not the same player. Who knows, even if he's going to be started by week 10, maybe they draft Shedeur Sanders. Maybe they turn it over to a day 2 quarterback like Jackson Dart. I think we're seeing the end of Russell Wilson. 3, Joe Milton. I'm joking, but I'll go Dak Prescott. I still think he's got some good football left in him if he can stay healthy, but that's a big if. I think he's been one of the more underrated quarterbacks over the last 6 or 7 years, but the injuries have really got to him. And Dallas has built a really just odd roster, trading draft picks for guys like Jonathan Mingo. I don't think they've done a good job, and Dak could suffer for that. Number 2, I'll go Cayden Daniels. I might be even earlier than Bob. I think he could pass Hurts by next season. And that has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts. I think Cayden Daniels has a chance to be special and be the quarterback that really competes for that top spot with Patrick Mahomes. What we saw last year was just different. But for now, I'll still go 1 with Jalen Hurts because by default, the resume is impressive and he just knows how to win.
Oh, good list. 42 seconds remaining, so you're under as well too. I'm going to institute a new change to this game next podcast. Whoever gets the closest to the buzzer inning without going over it is going to win. And I'll start keeping points in that one. But it'll be like points like who lines it anyway. The points don't matter. Who cares? But it's funny you mentioned the Joe.
I don't want to play that. The points don't count.
Hey, we compete. Come on. But Kate brought up an interesting point in terms of, if you haven't heard by now, that the Cowboys traded for New England Patriots quarterback Joe Milton, and they gave up, they traded that enough, I believe, a 7th round pick to the Patriots, and then they got the Patriots. The Patriots are getting a 5th round pick, and the Cowboys are getting Milton in a 7th. But one thing that's interesting that came away from all this is reported by Ben Valin of the Boston Globe. Yeah, the Eagles were interested in getting Milton, so they were interested in trading for Milton, and who knows what would have happened if, I don't know if the price was too high or what have you, but maybe would Dorian Thompson-Robinson be here if they agreed to the thing. So something to watch. I think Milton's a decent backup as well, too. He's got a lot of promise. That arm he has. Whew. He's got a strong arm. He can make all throws, so we'll do that. And now, lately we've ended it with the 2-minute warning, but what we're going to do in honor of the new overtime rule that was passed by the league, where both teams possess the ball after in overtime, we're going to bring back the overtime segment. And it's going to be focused on these league meetings. And Cayden, we haven't had a chance. You will get a chance one of these days because you're that good a writer. You'll get a chance to cover these league meetings. So I wanted to ask Bob, who was there this time, if you had any advice or just want to set the scene what it's like to cover league meetings, what would you tell Cayden to do, and just to give overall what to expect?
Expect to wake up early is one thing, because the coaches' breakfasts are very early in the morning. I with big gaps in between, but the first owners meetings, they used to call them the owners meetings. They can now call it the NFL annual meeting. The first one I ever covered was in 2004, I believe. And you can expect to be around very wealthy people, because these things are at highest end of hotels. The Breakers this year is beautiful, scenic. You walk out the back door of the hotel and there's nothing. It's almost like the hotel is in the Atlantic Ocean, because that's all you can see. So you're in a nice place. You're not staying there. And I'm going to Manahan's, our boss, Kevin Manahan's head might explode if he found out we were staying there, given the amount of money it costs to stay there for a night. I'm guessing somewhere in the $3,000 to $4,000 range a night. I stayed at the much less expensive and the much more inexpensive Spring Hill Suites. But anyway, so but here's a big change. So I hadn't been to in Palm Beach. I hadn't been to the meetings there in a long time, probably 2008 or 9, somewhere around there. And we used to at least be allowed in the hotel to cover the meetings, and to have, they put us in the ballroom, and they're pretty nice. And now they've built sheds for us to stay in, and that's where we work out of now. But as an information gathering, let me get off all that, because I don't want to sound like this unhappy, complaining sports writer. As an information gathering event, it's a good one. It's a really good one, because all the owners are there, all the coaches are there, all the general managers are there. So you can stop them in the hallway. You got to do it quick, if they're willing to do it. I've had coaches blow me off and GMs blow me off, but and then each breakfast, everything used to be better, because it used to be an hour long you would get. And, after about 25, 30 minutes, even the local writers, if you wanted to ask questions about your team of other coaches, you could. I can remember one meeting I went to, and I think this one was I'm positive it was in Palm Beach. I found out that the Eagles were interested in Jason Peters. And at the time, Dick Sharon was the Bills coach. I was able to go to him and ask him about Jason Peters. And he's like, "Why are you asking about Jason Peters?" Like, "Oh, there's some talk that the Eagles might be interested." He's like, "Well, he's a really good player. We are having some contract stuff with him." But anyway, long story short, I was walking with Joe Banner in the hall at the time, and I asked him about Jason Peters, and I forget who the GM of the Bills was at the time. Is shh, be quiet. That's that Bills GM right there. Do you want to get me in trouble? Like, no, Joe, I don't. I had no idea that I was standing near the Bills GM, to be honest. But it was very funny. But it's a great information gathering event. Much opulence, always in a warm weather site. But yeah, it's an interesting event, and to me, it's the best of the off-season events. I like it much better than the scouting combine. That was a long answer, but I hope I helped. I hope I helped whenever you do go cover your first meetings, Cayden.
I think you did. So.
Hey, what's been your perspective so far from like watching this last one from watching this last meeting and what you've seen from Cayden's review?
Yeah. I do like. I guess the perspective I got is, I mean, it's really the first time that reporters going down. You get to talk to Howie Roseman and kind of to get some of his thoughts. And from that perspective, this one, I guess from being far away, is kind of tough to kind of tell how it is. It just seemed like it was a big Tush Push event this year, which was fun to watch. It just seems every reporter was talking about the Tush Push, but from my perspective, it seemed like it's a good opportunity to kind of talk to Howie, because you don't get to really talk to him until you talk about the scouting combine, and then you get to talk about the owners meeting. So it's good to get some of his thoughts, and it was good to hear Nick. I mean, he didn't really say much other than he professed his love for Avery Williams like 3 different times. But other than that, he was pretty tight-lipped. But yeah, it was good to hear all of them, and you don't get to hear Jeffrey talk too much, Jeffrey Lurie, and I agree with Bob. I think it seems like it's an even better than the combine, because I feel like at the combine they're trying to hide stuff, and I guess they're still trying to hide stuff now, but now they can kind of talk about things a little bit more, so it gives you a good idea. So I guess we know that Dallas Goedert might be getting traded, and I mean, who knows, maybe Avery Williams is the Zach Bond on offense this year, so we'll find out.
Oh goodness. I'll start off first off. I'll just throw the breakers. Yeah, it's every other year. Normally it's every other year they go back and forth between Florida and Arizona, and they help the breakers. The cheapest room I saw for like at least in a couple months was around $800 something a night. And probably for the owners who were there, the most expensive room, to give you an idea, in I think it's June, I have it right here, $6,300 a night, just to give you an idea of the type of place it is. So it's a lot. But when it comes to the event itself, it is always, I like it in a way, in the sense that you get to see, it seems more intimate in a way. A lot of these times you get to see, you can see these guys with their families and how they interact, and it's chill, and it's almost like the big summer camp of the year, if that makes sense, because everybody gets together, all the coaches, you see them talking about stuff, hobnobbing and break into their little. It's interesting to see the cliques that break up too, but overall, these guys more laid back atmosphere as opposed to say normal we see at the facility or what have you. But you see that stuff, and you also get a chance to, like you mentioned, you get to talk about what's going on. You have a better sense of where a team is headed, where it's going. It is crowded both those nights. The AFC always goes first on that Monday morning, and then Tuesday morning is always crowded then as well too for the NFC. It's not as much because some of the AFC teams leave, but yeah, it's a little bit. The AFC reporters leave, but it's pretty crowded. You always jockey position. Like, I know the last few years, it was always me and Howard Askin, who used to former WIP host. He always beat me too. I was trying to jockey to get a seat early at the table. So I used to be there like 5:30 a.m. Just the last time I was there at 5:30 a.m. He already beat it. He was there since like 5 o'clock. Like, oh, great. Go get this.
So, Chris, you'll be happy to know at this one, there were, it was, I'm serious. They built a shed to put us in. And the shed was, and you may have covered something there that were in the same kind of setup. So you just may not have been shocking.
The shed is new. The shed is new. The media house was like a shed, but the whole things, it was on the inside. So I wouldn't, that was a big change. That's why I saw the shed.
This was outside, and like the first day we walked in for the AFC breakfast was Monday and the NFC was Tuesday. It's not even a breakfast anymore. It used to be an actual breakfast where they served you breakfast. But that's going back a few years. But you walked into the room and you couldn't move. I mean, it was literally person to person. You couldn't move. But I'm proud to say that I did get a seat at the table. There were only 4 seats at the table, 5 including where Nick Sirianni sat, because the cameras had come in and set up really early. And I think I got there maybe 6:05, and I got the second seat. Brooks Kopina from the Athletic had beaten me there, but I got to admit I cheated a little bit because for circumstances beyond my control. And this would be some advice I'd give to Cayden, is go to the party on Monday night, because you'll also get some great food and entertainment, and it's a good chance to just have a casual conversation with coaches, and Lori's usually available to have and I did not go this year because I had some things that didn't allow me to go, but it did allow me to go to sleep at a much earlier hour. So I was able to get up I think I woke up at 5 a.m. and was sitting at that table by 6 a.m. So I was proud to get a seat, because last year I didn't get a seat. I hadn't covered a meeting in a while, and I'd forgotten that you do got to really get there early. So. Yeah. So if you cover the Carolina Panthers, you show up whenever you want. You can show up.
Oh my goodness.
So, and this one was funny too, because it was clear that the Bills, despite being the only other team that really with great success runs the Tush Push, or Sean McDermott, who's on the competition committee, is come out and spoken against it. So many people, including all the Philadelphia people, the AFC day, wanted to talk to Sean McDermott, but he had talked to his local media the day before, and he was apparently upset that he had to go back and even do this thing, because he had already done it with the local media. So he showed up with 10 minutes left in the session. And he did answer questions about the Tush Push, but and Cayden, you're right. It became much about the Tush Push, where my Tush was tired of talking about the push. By the
Yeah, you're right about that. That turnaround between the Monday night party and to the Tuesday morning NFC. Yeah, it's a tight turnaround to wake up and everything else.
Yeah, I wasn't sad to miss that, although I do usually talking to Lori, and the year I covered the Giants, it was actually the first time I met John Mara was at the owners' meetings, and I introduced myself. He goes, "I know who you are."
Nice.
Welcome away from the dark side.
Well, we've reached the end of our show. I want to thank everybody for listening, and thank you for joining us again. I also want to make sure, give us your feedback about the show. You can reach us on X at @CFranklinNews, at Brookob, BROKOB, and at Cayden_Steele 19, CAYDEN_STEELE 19. Well, give us give us your feedback on the show. Also, if you have a question for us that you want to address on the podcast, reach out to us. You could hear it on an upcoming episode. So for Bob Brookover and Cayden Steele, I'm Chris Franklin. Everybody have a good one. See ya.